What's up guys, it's ALLDAYANTHONY. Welcome back to the Civic vlog that you hopefully know and hopefully love. And in today's video, I'm giving you a breakdown of all the eBay and junkyard parts on my Honda Civic Build. Let's go. Alright guys, and welcome back to the Civic vlog that you hopefully know and hopefully still remember. I know it's been a while, but I'm glad to be here because in today's video I'm doing something a little bit different. I'm going to be breaking down all of the junkyard and eBay specific parts on this build right here. Now the reason that this was prompted was because the other day I received a message on Instagram from a kid who was super complimentary of my Civic builds. I'm serious, he said like the nicest things ever, but then he told me that he was discouraged and I asked him why. He told me that he felt like his starting point for his Honda Civic was much worse than my starting points for my Honda Civics. And so he sent me a couple of pictures and I'm looking at him, I'm like, dude, this really isn't that bad. This is pretty clean overall. And I asked him if he had seen where the red Civic started, and he hadn't. He'd only started watching since the white Civic build. So he went back and watched and he was just like, wow, man, that's amazing. Where did you find all the parts? You know, how did you get everything to where it is today? And I told him, junkyards, eBay, things like that, parts cars and whatnot. And so he wanted me to do a breakdown video and kind of just tell people everything that I've done from eBay and the junkyard and kind of give you guys my thoughts on those bits and pieces. And so I've done a lot of stuff to this car off of camera over the years from, let's just say, the junkyard that I never really filmed anything on, mainly for the fact that it was small bits and pieces. It wasn't really worth filming, but I guess this would be a good time to kind of talk about those things and the things that I've found. So anyways, no more talking. Let's jump into it. So, starting with the OEM EM1 SI front lip, this bottom piece right here. Now, this wasn't something that I picked up from eBay, wasn't something that I picked up from a junkyard, but I did pick it up from a parts car from my friends over at RevTech Motorsports over in Nampa. Kevin was able to source it for me and sold it to me for, I think, about 200 bucks. Now, it needed to be repainted and I needed to weld a plastic tab onto it, but overall, it wasn't in bad shape. And so I have a whole video of me painting that and installing it and whatnot. Now before that I did have an eBay Type R replica lip that was like 30 or 40 bucks or whatever, and it was not bad. It was okay. It fit pretty good, but nothing like an OEM front lip. Now in terms of where you would find this, you probably won't find it on eBay or at a junkyard, unfortunately, mainly for the fact that they're like the first thing that people grab and they're kind of a pain in the ass to ship. So I guess my biggest recommendation would be if you can find one from a parts car locally or maybe on like the Facebook you know, forums groups or whatever that are Honda Civic related, that would be a good starting point. But that's kind of one of the oddball items that I can't really tell you where you would find it at, maybe in a junkyard like 15-20 years ago, but nowadays I would say try to do your best through Facebook and maybe eBay. Just kind of check often. But the replica lips are similar, but they're not quite as good in terms of fitment as the OEM one, as it has the tabs underneath to connect to the bottom of the bumper. All right, so moving on to the fender here. Now, many of you know when I got this car, not this fender, but the previous fender was completely bashed in. I think the previous owner hit one of those poles at a gas station or something. It was crumpled. It was pretty bad. So what I did is when I picked up this car, like literally as I was purchasing this car, I had a fender on order from eBay that I bought for like, I want to say it was like 80 bucks, and it's an OE fender. It wasn't OEM. It was a new OE style fender that was technically aftermarket, and I bought it. It showed up. It had a small kind of dent right here at the corner, and I contacted the seller just to say, hey, you know, it's dented, can I send this one back and get a different one? And he asked me if I wanted a refund, and he refunded me like 60% of the money I paid. So I ended up getting this fender for like 40 bucks or something. So pretty good deal. Now with this not being an OEM fender, I was kind of worried that the fitment was going to be off, considering I'd got off of eBay, and you know, you kind of get what you pay for. But I think when it comes to buying maybe metal body parts from eBay, I think it's relatively safe if they are packed well. And what I mean by that is that on a metal fender, right, as long as it's boxed up, and as long as it's got styrofoam in there, and as long as the mold is good from the factory, I think it should look pretty good. And I think that this one has turned out pretty good, if I say so myself. I think the fitment is pretty damn close to perfect. Now, I don't really have any hesitation buying metal body parts off of eBay again, knowing that this was a pretty good experience. The only thing I'd be concerned about would be buying a front bumper or perhaps a rear bumper that was OE and not OEM, mainly because when they ship those, they kind of bend them in half and then send them to you, and you have to heat them up to get them back to normal, and oftentimes they kind of have indents and they just don't look right. So my recommendation would be to go to a junkyard and maybe find a front or rear bumper that's in better shape than yours, and maybe do the swap, because that's what I did on the white Civic, and I got super lucky with both the front and rear bumper because it was already in the same color, and I think I scored them for like, I don't know, 40 or 50 bucks each, and it was just too good of a deal. So anyways, so something to keep in mind, right? All right, so moving on to the mirrors here. Now this is where you're gonna start seeing that Anthony's a little crazy, and I just start replacing things just because I can, not necessarily because they're broken or that I need to. Now, both mirrors have been replaced. Now, the first mirror I bought for this car, because it didn't have a mirror on this side, was from eBay, and it was in a beautiful Milano pink color, meaning that it faded pretty bad. And so I tried to repaint it myself. I did a horrible job, talking like almost as bad as the damn door itself. And so I ended up buying this one from a junkyard, and then later on finding the passenger side at a junkyard, because the passenger one at the junkyard was in better shape than mine currently was. So again, kind of crazy, right? It's small improvements, but it's something that I do just because, you know, I can kind of just nitpick and say, well, it's cheap, and it's cheaper than buying paint and painting it, so why not, right? So I want to say that for both mirrors here, I want to say I paid probably 30 bucks each at the junkyard. So two different Civic mirrors. It just happened to both be in good shape and both being in Milano red. So, all right, it's getting cold here. So moving on, the mud guards. Now, I made a video on this a long time ago talking about how every 90s Honda should probably have some OEM style mud guards, and I still agree to this day. I think they look great, and I think that they're just a nice touch for the front and the rear. Now, these mud guards are from eBay, at least the fronts are. Now, on eBay, I think you can find a full set for a 96 to 98 Civic Coupe and sedan for like, I don't know, it might be like 50 bucks. If I can find a link, I'll put it down in the description. But the good news is that since mine's a 99 to 2000, I can still use the fronts. However, the rears don't quite fit right, because the 99 to 2000 rear bumper, which I'll get to here in a minute, is different than the 96 to 98. So what I ended up doing is I got these from eBay for the fronts, and I bought actually 2 or 3 sets at this point, because I had gotten a set for the white Civic, I got a set for these, and I bought another set because they're so cheap and I tend to break these all the time, so it's just nice to have some extra ones on hand. But the rear ones though, that's where I had to find these at the junkyard, and if you can find these, pick them up, because they're dirt cheap at the junkyard. They might charge you a couple bucks for them, and they're just getting more and more sparse. Meaning that's much harder to find nowadays. So try to get some while you can. Again, this is for the 99 to 2000 rear bumper, as it doesn't have this indent lip right here towards the bottom. All right, so while I'm down here, I'll cover this. I haven't done it yet, but I'm gonna cover it anyway. So I did pick up a rear disc conversion quite some time ago from my friend Notorious Leo on Instagram. The guy was awesome. He found me a set of SI rear trailing arms, and he shipped them to me. I paid for shipping. It was such an awesome thing, and I'm very thankful for that. I just haven't done it yet, and so as you can see, I'm still on the drum brakes that don't look bad. I refinished them and I refreshed the drums and put new pads in them. I think, I don't know, several months ago. But I do want to get to that rear disc swap, and that would be something that you probably can find in a junkyard. It's gonna be really hard for you to find an EM1 rear trailing arm, but I think you can absolutely find an Integra. You can even find an EG rear trailing arm. Those are more common for sure, but super happy, but I just haven't covered it yet. So I would consider it a junkyard purchase, perhaps a parts car purchase. All right, so moving on to some of the more interesting junkyard and eBay bits, we are going to start with the spoiler here. Get in your votes. What do you guys think? eBay, junkyard, eBay, junkyard. What is it? It's from eBay. So this spoiler right here is not an OEM spoiler. That is correct. And I'm talking about the spoiler itself, not the Password JDM gurney flap on here. So the spoiler itself did come from eBay, and it is an OE style ABS rear spoiler. Now, I do have an OEM rear spoiler that I picked up at the junkyard for super cheap. That's in black currently. I thought the swap didn't really make sense. The biggest difference between the OEM spoiler and the eBay aftermarket ABS spoiler is going to be on the bottom right here. So underneath there, you would see a Civic engraving or indentation right along the bottom here. But instead, it's blank. Instead of having a halogen bulb like the stock spoiler would have, these are actually LEDs instead. And so this throws people off because when they see the spoiler, they automatically assume, okay, it's got to be an OEM spoiler, and it's not. This was actually paint to matched from eBay, and I can't remember who I bought it from, but I think that probably one of the most reputable sources for just finding this exact spoiler, even unpainted, would probably be Based in Our Motorsports. But you can probably find a seller if you want. You can search around, but this is a 99 to 2000 high spoiler. This is not an EM1 spoiler. The EM1 spoiler, people just assume that it's called an EM1 spoiler because it came on a lot of the EM1s, but it was even an option for, hell, any 99 to 2000 Civic. You can get a high spoiler on it. Whether it's a DX, EX, whatever it was, you could do a high spoiler. So, and I want to say I paid $200 shipped and painted, which is a damn good deal. So search around. If I can find a link, I'll link you guys down there. So moving on, rear bumper here. A lot of people gave me crap for a while because the rear bumper that I had when I got the car was in it was in rough shape, guys. It had like dents in it. It was missing like giant chunks of paint on the side. So this came from the Junkyard here. So again, I like going with Junkyard OEM bumpers if I can find them. And so I found a mint one that was from a silver EX. I think it was a sedan actually, a 99 sedan or a 2000 sedan, but it was in silver. And so right when I saw that I had no dents, no scratches or anything, I pulled that thing as fast as I could and took it down to my painter and had it resprayed. So I want to say I paid 50 bucks for the rear bumper, and I think he charged me like 120 bucks to spray it, and it's like perfect. I mean, the paint match is dead on. It looks exactly like it should. I mean, in direct sunlight, it's almost an identical match, and so I've been super happy with it. And this is a good example of why I would go with an OEM bumper rather than buying it off of eBay and finding one that's in good shape that can be repainted. And in my case, it was cheaper for me to find a bumper at the Junkyard and respray it rather than trying to fix mine and all the dents and paint chips and all of that. And so this is one of those, again, examples of me making improvements to the car that may not seem like that big of a difference, but over time, the more of those little changes I make, the cleaner and cleaner the car gets. And so anyways, that's just a good example. So moving on from there, a couple small things that I've done and replaced. Like I replaced this door sash right here on both sides. It's really cheap to do, and there's like 3 screws that you can pull off and replace that. They were just in better shape than the ones I had. I do highly recommend watching my video on rewrapping these door trim pieces in black, right? Because I feel like a lot of these just get really wasted with time and chipped up and a lot of metal exposed, and it's something that you can do for a couple bucks worth of wrap. And I did that on the white Civic and it looks so much better. So I think that's pretty much it for the exterior, right? I mean, all the other, stuff I've done has mostly just been detailing, right? Getting the paint back to good shape. And again, I've made several videos on me detailing this thing, so you can check those out if you want to check those out as well. So detailing is a big thing, right? It's going to be able to bring back a lot of that paint if it hasn't completely failed or oxidized. It's huge, right? So one last thing on the exterior here, fender liners. I replaced both fronts from a donor set at the Junkyard. I want to say I paid like 10 or 15 bucks each, and they just got super beat up, especially when I didn't have my camera kit installed on this car when I first lowered it. And so my original ones just got super tore up. And instead of ordering it off of like eBay and buying like a new set, I just got some from the Junkyard. They were cheaper and they were in pretty good shape. Just kind of restored them and did that. But I did that off camera. Wasn't anything I filmed. It's pretty boring stuff, but that is something that I did as well. All right, I'm popping the hood here on my latch that still exists. Right? Amazing. All right, guys, so I am genuinely embarrassed right now. My engine bay is absolutely freaking filthy. I can't believe I let it get this bad. I haven't popped the hood in like 3 months. So Go figure. I guess that means I need to make a detailing video. What do you guys think? Yes? No? Maybe so? So Z6 valve cover, that's probably the most obvious thing that I picked up from a junkyard. I also found a JDM D15 valve cover that basically just has a VTEC logo on it. So it doesn't say VTEC Honda with the Honda badge, it just says VTEC on it. Other than that though, everything else has been a bunch of just kind of small stuff. So for example, right? So like fuse box cover, right? That was a junkyard buy. This negative cable here into the ground was from eBay actually, and that was an OEM Honda part. And then the positive cable going into the starter was also from eBay, but was an OEM part as well, which was good. I was able to score those. My HID headlights, which I need to clean up my wiring down there on, those are from eBay as well. Everything else has been small bits and pieces, just random things, right? Whether it was like a power steering cap, or whether it was a radiator cap, or all those small things. I mean, you can typically go to a junkyard and pay almost nothing for them. They might charge you $1, maybe $2 for small stuff like that. And so this is just so filthy. I don't even want to look at it right now. It's stressing me out, because I'm like, Anthony, you don't let your stuff get this dirty, and here I am like disappointed in myself. What have I done? All right, so I think that's it for the exterior, right? So just a handful of things, but so far I'm wearing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different cars on the outside from different Honda Civics, I think so far. Only 5. Okay, give me your count, right? If you have a higher count of different Honda Civics that your Honda Civic is wearing, your cannibalistic Honda Civic, drop it down in the comments. I'm curious to know. All right, so moving on into the interior here. Now I know the first thing that people are gonna notice are the Corbeau seats. Look past those, just pretend that they aren't there. Previous to those, I had a pair of Del Sol seats that you guys know I kind of fixed up, did a Frankenstein stitch, and then put some Iggy seat covers on. I absolutely loved that mod. The Del Sol seats I still have to this day, but those I got from a parts car. So they weren't a junkyard part, but they were a parts car that I paid almost nothing for those seats, which are a great mod. So if you haven't seen that video, I'd highly recommend checking that out. All right, so next thing people notice is gonna be the S2000 wheel. This was an eBay purchase. I highly doubt that you would find one in a junkyard. If you do, you have scored the gold mine of gold mines, but this was purchased off of eBay, and I paid roughly, I think, $200 for it, which was an insanely good deal. I don't think that a deal exists anymore. I think if you're gonna go on there now, it's probably gonna be like $500, $600. So I just kind of scored at the time, and then prices just shot up since then. So in terms of where you would find an S2000 steering wheel nowadays, I still think eBay would probably be your best bet, even though you're gonna have to pay more for it. That, or maybe just like another Honda group on Facebook. You might be able to find something for sale. And of course, there's other steering wheel swaps that you can do on the EK chassis if that's something you wanna do as well. So moving on from there, right, to our gauge cluster there, I made a video on all the different clusters I have. I have been essentially hoarding and collecting these clusters for far too long. I think I have a problem, but I have a couple CRV clusters that I have, and then 2 EM1 clusters that I have as well. And so both of the EM1 clusters came from parts cars, and then the CRV clusters came from the junkyard. And so I got both CRV clusters from the junkyard, and I want to say I paid about $40 each. I need to get one of those damn things inside here. I just haven't got around to it. I got to adjust the mileage and do all that, and I'll get to that here in a little bit. So moving on from there, we have my climate control, this entire unit here minus my stereo. That was actually purchased from eBay rather than a junkyard. You can find them in junkyards all the time. It was just convenient at the time. I found it on eBay. I want to say I paid like $70 shipped on eBay, and it was in really good shape. So I just said hell with it. Instead of going grabbing my tools, I'll just make it easy on myself. So I got it. Great shape. It's almost in better shape as the one I had. This was after the thieves broke into my cars and cracked everything and effed everything up. So moving over from there, the glove box, got this from the junkyard. It was in killer shape compared to the one I had. Again, this is where you're gonna start noticing more of just me being crazy, replacing things that aren't broken, but they just have small defects that I'm replacing for cheap while I can, while parts are still available. So I think everything in the center console, everything all the way even up to here, was all out of the junkyard, as it was in better shape than the one I had. I believe I did this off of camera. I never filmed a video on it. It's super easy to do. It's literally just a couple screws on either side all the way up. And I also found my OEM cup holder insert from the Junkyard as well. And I think they gave that to me for free, which is amazing. So all this stuff right here typically gets really scratched up with time, and if you can find a good donor center console set from the Junkyard, do it. The only thing I kept was my wrapped armrest cover, and I got this off of eBay for I think 10 bucks. Just do a quick search, you'll be able to find it. But it's nice, matches the Corbos here, and it's held up for like years. It's amazing. It's probably one of my favorite little things that I did for close to no cost at all. So, and then here you guys can see I'm rocking the new Circuit Hero V2 plate. So almost, actually everything back here has been replaced from the Junkyard. So both sides of rear plastics, here and here, have been replaced. The top of the seat there on the deck there was replaced with the Junkyard, and then both seats. Now I did one seat at one time on camera, and then I did another seat another time off of camera, just because I thought it was in better shape. And so I think literally the entire rear section of this car and the interior, it came from 3 different cars, and I want to say I paid maybe like $100 total from the Junkyard for the entire rear section. And it wasn't because mine was necessarily broken or in that bad a shape. It's just when I got this car, it smelled like a dog, because I'm sure a dog had been living in it, and there was puncture holes in the seat, and there was hair and smells I just couldn't get out of the car. So I thought, instead of trying to fix everything, why not just replace it and get rid of those smells in the first place? So that's what I did. So new plastics that didn't have dog scratches on them, pumped on that. Other than that though, oh, visors. Both visors were replaced from Junkyard cars because mine were in rough shape. I guess the lady that had my car was like wearing makeup all the time, and this was just covered in like pink shit. I don't know what it was, dude. It could have been shit too. I have no idea, but it was just pink, just all over here. So both of these kick panels have been replaced. My pads here for my pedals have been replaced. This dead pedal right here was replaced. And all those came from the Junkyard as well. And I want to say, I mean, all that stuff probably cost nothing over the years. I mean, just a couple bucks. Fuse box or fuse cover doesn't even match. It's a completely different shade of gray. Probably should find one in the right shade. I don't know, count it out, man. How many different cars is that? Probably like, what did I say, 3 back there. Another one, probably the same one. That's a different car, that's a different car. Fuse box, obviously, fuse cover came from a different car. Glove box came from probably one of the same cars. So I don't know, like 10 cars total, I would say. I would estimate to say 10 cars total. So the other things I wanna do, eventually replace these right here, since these are kind of scuffed up. I want to see if I can rewrap this interior trim, as I still have some cigarette burns from the previous owner inside of them, just to kind of clean those up. Maybe do something in like black or just another type of gray that's in better shape. All right, so I'm sitting here scratching my head thinking I'm probably missing something. And I know there's like a lot of small stuff I didn't cover, like pop clips, and like I'm not gonna pop clips and screws. You guys want me to count every screw and pop clip I replaced? No, I'm sure you guys don't want to see that. So I think that pretty much covers everything. In my opinion, I think that the interior probably had the biggest transformation, mainly for the fact that that's just where I'm in, right? I'm in there. I can smell everything in there. I can feel everything in there, and it just doesn't feel grungy or gross anymore. It feels like a nice, clean place to be. It feels like it has my smells, not another person's smells. Does that make sense, right? It's like, you know, it's like when you move into a new house and you're like, this smells like the old person. You want it to smell like you, right? If you smell good. I think I smell good, so that works out for me. So, anyways, interior probably had the biggest transformation, probably the most amount of parts that I pulled from other random cars. The exterior still did have, you know, quite a few other different parts on it, but I know a lot of people think that this car was probably resprayed, or that this car had a ton of body work, and that just, it's not true. Really, the biggest thing was maybe that fender and that door over there had body work, the rear bumper, and then everything else is kind of stuff I just did myself, like, you know, the front lip and whatnot, and then getting all the dents taken out, and that was just a matter of paintless dent repair, and my guy Eric did a really good job getting most of the dents out. There's still just a crap ton of dents left, but I mean, for the most part, say most of them are out. All right, so I think that pretty much wraps it up, and I think that the biggest takeaway from, you know, everything I'm kind of listing out in this video is that this is all stuff that you you can absolutely do yourself. You know, if you're new to this, or whether it's new to Hondas or just new to cars in general, and you're trying to fix something up and maybe do it on a budget, you don't have to settle for like super cheap stuff. You can still find quality stuff, OE stuff, OEM stuff, if you're willing to search for it, right? And if you live near a junkyard, I think that's hands down one of the best resources that you can have, especially one where you can pull your own parts. I mean, that's like, damn, dude, that's like a treasure hunt. It's the best. I love it. But if you have to, you know, eBay's also there as well. You're probably going to pay a little bit more on eBay, and you're going to have to search for stuff often as, you know, inventory gets uploaded on there. But I guess the biggest thing is have patience, right? Don't try to rush things. If you're wanting to have a good, clean result, sometimes it's worth taking the extra time to make sure it's done right. And so overall, though, I think that my hodgepodge car of a little bit of eBay and, you know, a lot of junkyard is a pretty good mix. And I think, you know, there's obviously a lot of good new quality parts on the car as well, where I've been able to kind of splurge on those things because of the money I saved everywhere else. And that's another big thing to kind of take away from this as well. So it's not perfect. It's not perfect. Everybody thinks that my car is perfect. It's absolutely not. There's still just a crap ton of imperfections. So many I can't even count. But for the most part, I think most people would agree that it's pretty dang clean for what it is. So anyways, guys, hopefully this video has been helpful. Maybe it gives you some courage in going out there and doing some stuff yourself, or just knowing in the fact that, you know, what you see on Instagram or what you see on YouTube isn't this perfect example of what you think it is, right? You know, mine's kind of a hodgepodge car. It's a Civic wearing like 10 other Civics. So anyways, if you guys like this kind of content, want to see more of the Civic stuff in the future, make sure to give me a big thumbs up. Subscribe down below for more, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. It's ALLDAYANTHONY. Peace.